Welcome to Destination Animation, your trip around the world of cartoons and anime, stop motion and puppetry, special effects and CGI, and everything else in between. I'm your host, Jason Knott.
And I'm Becca McGraw.
And I am Carrie Dreblow. And today we are talking about Studio Ghibli's 1997 film, Princess Mononoke, or Mononoke Hime.
Mononoke Hime.
Mononoke Hime. And why are we talking about it today?
Because it is my favorite animated movie of all time, of course.
Oh, nice. Good choice. Good choice.
Don't say.
Yeah. Why is that?
All right. So for me, honestly, this pick of mine is pretty much all Studio Ghibli movies in one. But specifically, if I had to pick one, even though it's like choosing between children, Princess Mononoke would be my number one. Just this movie is beautiful. For me, when I watch animation, a lot of it is about the art and the feel and how animation can take you to these fantastical, beautiful worlds that a lot of times you can't go to in just live action because everything comes directly from everything comes directly from the animator's imagination. And yeah, so this one, it just has a great story. It has so many beautiful scenes that they're so gorgeous that they fill you with this peaceful feeling while you're watching them because they're so beautiful. And also it has a very deep plot about the relationship between humankind and nature and how to maintain that balance. Just straight up great stuff.
And what is this plot?
Okay, so the plot of this movie is that Prince Ashitaka, who is a warrior prince from a civilization who was wiped out by the emperor, and a lot of people don't even know that they still exist, one day this rampaging boar god attacks his village, and he basically has to get in this fight with the boar, and he's cursed by this boar demon god, and the curse that he gets is slowly killing him, and he's given the option of either accepting his fate or rising to meet it. And so he sets off into the west to find out what it was that caused the boar god to become a demon monster. And he comes across this village called Irontown, which is at war with the forest gods, and it's this big epic conflict between man and nature and between trying to see with eyes, quote, unclouded by hate.
Indeed.
This
Deep
movie's
stuff.
really super cool, honestly. This is one of the first Studio Ghibli movies that I saw, personally.
Me too.
Yeah.
It was the very first that I saw.
Yeah, I think the first I saw might have been Totoro, but this would have been maybe the second or third. And it leaves a really good impression.
Yeah, the first I saw as a kid was Kiki's delivery service on TV. And then, I didn't even really register what studio it was, you know?
Yeah, I saw Kiki's delivery service VHS ads.
Yeah, me too. But I didn't even see the full movie yet. I was just a bit of it on TV. And then I saw Princess Mononoke when my sister came home with a DVD after she'd seen it with one of her friends, and we watched it. And, I was maybe 10 when I saw it, so
wow.
Maybe not the right age group, but I still really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that is the thing, is of all Miyazaki's movies, this one is probably considered to be the darkest of them and the most, quote, adult.
There's a maturity to it that the other movies don't really have. It's quiet, somber, serious, and a bit gory.
Very.
Yeah, significantly. There's a lot of blood. There's a lot of, they don't shy away from the war scenes. During the battles between the humans and the animals, there will be dead bodies, there will be blood and rotting stuff, and it's it does get pretty serious.
And they don't pull any punches with the violence either, so...
No.
Yeah, that's kind of the point, too, though, is when will the killing stop? Except not, preachy like that, like I was doing it.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So, I was introduced to this movie, actually, in Japanese class in high school. I was kind of into anime at the time because of Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z being on Toonami, and so I decided, hey, I should take Japanese. I'm an engineering student. Like, Japan seems like a place that a lot of people who could be potential clients would be from. So in that Japanese class, the teacher, Mrs. Watanabe, showed us like all of Studio Ghibli's movies, except she showed them to us completely in Japanese. So we were not allowed to see them in English. And then years later, I sought, like, Princess Mononoke was the first one that I sought out, because even just watching it in Japanese, I was, like, completely enthralled, because it was just so gorgeous.
And not only that, like, it grabs you right away. It opens with a pretty awesome action scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, Miyazaki does a good job of doing that. Like, a lot of his movies, like Castle in the Sky, they have these action scenes right at the front where, like, by the time the credits roll, you are just breathless because of how intense that opening was.
For sure. I saw it in English for the first time, just on my own in my home, and in preparation for this podcast, Jason and I watched it in Japanese for the first time, and the dub is pretty good. It's pretty faithful.
Yeah, there are a lot of moments where they sort of add in other, like, little lines of explanation and whatnot to sort of make people understand, like, about Japanese, culture. But then there are others that sort of, like, are self-explanatory, like this. There's a scene where Ashitaka is in this place, and he's like, "Oh, where am I?" And he's like, "This is a magical place," and that wasn't in.
Yeah, I didn't care for that. That was a
original.
Little much. Yeah. Just little interjections, nothing too terrible, though. And who adapted this movie for English?
Neil Gaiman, popular author,
Ooh.
writer of Good Omens with Terry Pratchett, The Graveyard Book, American Gods, and so many more.
Coraline,
yes.
The Sandman comics?
Yes, he's done a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And he has commented that he really enjoyed doing the dubbing of this movie, and that he actually met Hayao Miyazaki, and Miyazaki hugged him and said, "I'm so grateful I decided to let this be dubbed."
Yeah, that's
That's
awesome.
So he obviously really enjoyed the dub.
Yeah, like, there were a few subtle things that they had to change in between the Japanese version and the English version just because of cultural things. Like, one of the most famous that I'm aware of, which was in the bonus features, is there's a scene where Jigo is buying porridge from someone, or soup, and he comments in the English version, "What is this, soup or donkey piss?" And in the Japanese, it's just, "This soup tastes like water." And, like, it's because there's a lost in translation thing there, where in English we're like, "Oh, okay, so it's watered down, big deal." Where in Japanese, it's like an insult to say that someone's soup tastes like water. So,
yeah.
But just subtle things like that.
For sure. He's not the one who did the translation. He adapted it. And so he would have, had to say on things like that. And he did a good job of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, in general, the the Disney dubs of the Ghibli movies tend to be very good.
I think this was pre-Disney, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think at the time maybe Miramax was a subsidiary of Disney.
They were.
Maybe.
Yeah, and I remember because Miyazaki really, really hated what they did with his original movies and how they cut it down, specifically Nausicaa. So he sent a katana to possibly Harvey Weinstein, and that said no cuts.
Yep.
Wreck him.
Wreck him.
That's so good.
And I definitely side with Miyazaki, because the thing is, this is something that, another way that I got into Ghibli was because they did a 31-day, they did a Studio Ghibli Fest on TCM back in 2006. So I got to watch all of the movies back to back, and they actually got to interview the people that did the American dubs. And one of the things that was said was, a lot of Miyazaki's movies have these quiet moments where a character will just stop and nothing's happening. They're just stopping and looking at the scenery and their atmospheric shots and things like that. Miyazaki takes a very long time to just wander around the world and explore and take things in and breathe. And that is not how American films are cut.
No.
Like, in American films, it's like, come on, speed it up, I'm going for popcorn. And that's just not how Japanese movies are cut. So it was just nature for all these American producers to want to cut out all of those scenes where technically nothing is happening.
What is this, atmosphere? Get that out of my house.
Yeah, and this movie, very, very good atmosphere. And you're right, there's definitely a lot of meandering. Kind of sounds like a mean way to explain it, but there is a lot of just kind of appreciating what's around you in this movie.
Yeah, like one of my favorite moments in this movie is just when it's later in the movie after Ashitaka is just waking back up from something and he's walking and there's this battle going on and it just focuses on him and all of a sudden this little rain cloud comes in and you see the different textures and it's just the beautiful forest mixed with this wispy rain cloud and the sound of the rain and the lighting changes and it's such a quiet, beautiful moment, but it is jaw-dropping, like,
absolutely.
spectacle.
Yeah, when I was watching it last night, like, the first raindrops just pitter-pattering on the rocks, it was so real, like, I could smell that rain. It was so good.
Yeah, and again, that's the kind of thing that Miyazaki does in all of his movies, is just... And this is a lot of the thing that makes for good animation in general, is that it's grounded in reality. Like, Miyazaki often criticizes the anime industry by saying that it's made by people who don't like talking to other people and don't like going outside. And,
Fair.
you know, like, Miyazaki likes... going out into the world and touching things and holding things.
Yeah.
And he brings these little moments into his movies as like this visual reference, even though they're very fantastic things that ground you in that reality and pulled you in. It's like he understands what it feels like and what it looks like. And this is starting to just sound like me gushing.
Yeah, and that reminds me of how he draws, or his style, like, tears. How they're very exaggerated but that's what crying feels like. It's not what crying looks like. It's what it feels like. And, like, for sure, he totally captures it.
And he gets the feeling of being all mad and, like,
when everyone
strung up when they poof, when the hair poofs.
Little kitty poofs.
And also he captures laughing really well.
Oh, for sure.
Like, every time a character laughs in one of his movies, it's very distinct, right?
And it's like with their whole body.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is definitely a scene that does that with Lady Eboshi laughing in this one. Eyes unclouded. You know.
Yeah.
Mini Driver.
Yeah.
Speaking of Lady Eboshi, let's talk about how she's actually a really good antagonist because she's not stereotypical.
Yeah, she's interesting. She's really interesting.
Like, in a lot of these pro-environmental movies, you have, like, the big bad guys like, oh, cut down the trees, I don't care, I want more paper factories or whatever.
You can call out the Lorax by name, Jason, it's fine.
I want a bottle of air.
Or we can call out the Tim Curry Hexus character.
Okay. No, he's a pollution god, alright? He's the best.
I just love pollution.
You love my...
Yeah.
Toxic love.
It's
like,
so subtle.
You okay there, Tim?
Yes, an oddly sexual scene about how he gets off on destroying Fern Gully, apparently. But yes.
I could go into that, but...
That's for another episode.
So, this is a quote that I pulled up for this podcast from Miyazaki about his complex hero and the concept he has of, quote, heroes and, quote, villains. Here it is. The concept of portraying evil and then destroying it. I know this is considered mainstream, but I think it's rotten. The idea that whenever something evil happens, someone particular can be blamed and punished for it in life and in politics is hopeless. And he also talks about how you have to look for the light in the darkness and look for the darkness in the light. So Miyazaki fundamentally does not believe in the typical hero-villain dichotomy. He likes making very complex, quote, villains who they maybe do bad things, but it's not that they're necessarily bad people. It's just they have their own motivations for doing these things, and that happens to be at odds with the hero.
Yeah, you can see why Lady Eboshi is doing these things. She may have come into the village, like, later, but she really helped reform it, and she cared about the lepers and gave these former brothel workers jobs and good houses and homes, and she's done a lot of good things for these people, but her methods are misguided, and she wants to basically kill the god of the forest, and that's...
Yeah. If it wasn't for the I want to kill God thing, I'd be cool with everything she's doing, honestly. Like, even the deforestation, like, that's just kind of part of progress.
Yeah, but, like, you have to also... She and her men make an effort to stop the apes from planting, seeds of trees, and, like, you have to let a few of those trees come back. For every one you cut down, you have to plant 2 more seeds so that you can assure growth, and they don't get that.
Yeah, it's like... That's Ashitaka's, like, quest through this whole thing. It's not to vanquish evil. It's to find the balance.
Yeah, he's very much the mediator between the wolves and the humans.
Which is interesting for, like, the main protagonist of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. He's just kind of, he's kind of there. Like, he ends up being hurt because of this battle and just by being caught in the middle of it, but he's not necessarily on either side. He's just looking for a way to heal his curse and gets involved in trying at the same time to heal the curses of the world. And one of my favorite dynamics is, again, like, this movie talks about what turns things into demons, and there's we see that there's the possibility for that on both sides of this, where, like, you might want to just take the side of nature because, hey, they're just protecting their home, or even you can take the side of Irontown because, they're just making a life for themselves here, and they're not necessarily either right or wrong, and they both can do reprehensible things.
Yeah, totally. Like, I think the boars also represent, like, the humans are evil side of the argument too, like the extremist side,
the pig-headed side.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Pig-headed.
Oh yeah, it's because Nobu, the original boar that curses Ashitaka indirectly, and Akoto, the boar god that comes in to help the wolves, they both get really blinded by their hate, and they become demons, like, easily.
The latter, like, literally so.
Nago, I think, was his name.
Nago, that's it. Nobu is a Marvel character.
Well, whatever. It sounds like a Japanese name. It's easy to get.
Yeah, on that note, should we discuss spoilers?
Yes, let's.
Yes, warning. Spoilers ahead. If you have not seen the movie, definitely watch it before seeing these spoilers, because this movie is too good to just, have it spoiled for you immediately. Watch the damn thing.
Absolutely.
Okay, with that said.
Just watch it. We haven't talked about San at all, so let's talk about her.
Oh yeah, San.
Yes. San.
So, San is a character kind of like Ashitaka, where she is somewhere between the humans and the wolves just by virtue of being a human who was raised by the wolves.
Yeah.
Like, this is in Moro's exact words, is like, I caught her parents desecrating my forest. They threw their baby at their feet as they fled. Instead of eating her, I raised her as my own. And now my poor, ugly, beautiful daughter is neither human nor wolf.
She's basically Mowgli.
Yeah.
And she definitely wants to stay in the jungle, but...
Yeah, okay, I want to stay in the jungle!
And just the animation work on her is so cool, too. She's very feral.
Yeah. The way she moves, the way she fights. Like, she goes for Ashitaka's arm at one point.
Yeah, when Ashitaka is trying to keep them apart, she, like, bites his arm and she's, like, scratching at it. And...
Yeah.
And, like, when she's fighting Lady Eboshi, she stays really low and takes lunges. But it's not undignified like some feral portrayals could be. Like, there's still a dignity to her.
There's a method to her fighting, but it's very, like, wolf-like. It's how you would imagine a wolf would fight if they could walk on 2 legs and have opposable thumbs.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that San is basically the sort of opposite of Ashitaka, in that she's very extremist in the beginning, but then thanks to him, she, like, sort of, her barriers break down, and she realizes that, maybe we can make some peace with the humans, and she's challenged by that throughout the whole movie. Especially after Eboshi succeeds in killing the forest god, she wants to kill her immediately and is just so angry, and she, like, stabs Ashitaka with amulet or necklace that he gave her.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The forest spirit.
Yes, the forest spirit.
Shishikami.
Shishikami. I love this design. It's...
Yeah.
Yeah, this is such a unique, like, spirit design.
Yeah, it's, like, mostly deer, but it's also not deer at all, in a way. Like, I really adore it. The first time I watched this movie, I remember, like, this really just caught me and put its hooks into my brain. Like, wow, look at this.
Like, his face should be really off-putting, and it kind of is, but at the same time, there's something, like, kind of reassuring about it.
Yeah, it's like, by all accounts, this design should be kind of terrifying, and in a way, it's like, yeah, I'm looking at a creature, like, not of this world. This is something else, but it is reassuring. Something about it. It's just...
Yeah, I think it might be the motion. Like, just the way that it walks is very, like, weightless and ethereal.
Yeah.
Like, it literally walks on water like Dear Jesus.
I really like the part, like, when Lady Eboshi shoots him the first time and his front feet start sinking into the water. Like, what a cool touch, right?
Yeah.
But then he pulls himself back out. Like, what a creative, just... I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, all the designs in this movie are... like, Miyazaki is at creating these memorable monsters. Like, all of them have all these amazing ideas put into them. Like, every single one of his movies has at least, like, 4 or 5 of these things that are brand new and yet...
yeah.
But, you know, things like The Door and Howl's Moving Castle, or...
The Door, yeah.
Or Totoro and the forest spirits, like, making the trees grow and that dance thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, even the wolves, like, you could have just had regular wolves.
Yeah, like, one of the things that Miyazaki says while he's making these unique worlds, like, he wants to showcase the beauty of these things. Like, he says... Quote, again, I'm just going to quote Miyazaki verbatim here. "I'm not going to make movies that tell children you should despair and run away. I would like to make a film to tell children it's good to be alive."
Yeah.
And so a lot of his movies focus on, you know, even though these big bad things are going on, it always has these beautiful moments and you know, it's like character emotions and things that are beautiful for the sake of just being, wow, this thing is amazing.
Yeah.
And that's something he pulls off very well. Like, there's a beauty to his work, even in the ugly things. Like I was saying about the wolves, they've got these really wide mouths and their eyes are just a little on the human side, which makes them look very unique, almost creepy, but it's so appealing too.
Yeah,
like,
they're fuzzy
I like
puppos.
watching them. They're fuzzy puppos. And like in Spirited Away, when the river spirit is polluted, it's something that should be disgusting, but just something about his style.
Yeah, it's beautiful to look at.
It's beautiful
See
to
him
look
move.
at. Yeah.
Yeah, he puts this is the thing. Miyazaki does not cut corners. Like, he animates things down to the smallest detail, and he does not say, like, well, this is going to take too long to animate to do all these little details all hand-drawn. He will animate all of them. And so, you know, like, where in a lot of films, they would, like, take all of that river junk and coagulate it into a giant mass to save time, he will animate every single little detail in that. And so...
Absolutely.
It's that attention to detail. And again, it's that thing that grounds you in reality.
Yeah, for sure. And, like, there's a lot of effect shots in this movie, like the weird tentacle things that the demons have, like, which probably some, you know, computer assistance, but you were saying, Carrie, before we started recording, that a lot of it was hand-drawn.
Okay, yeah, the tentacles, Miyazaki does use some CGI. This was the first movie of his that really made, like, a lot of use of CGI, but Miyazaki fundamentally doesn't believe in using CGI as a shortcut. Like,
yeah,
he will use CGI when it is physically impossible to do something with just hand-drawn, but...
And you know that what that reminds me of? Leica Studios is the same way. Like, they use computer imagery to help with their stop motion, but only if it wouldn't be practical at all to try to pull off this effect with stop motion.
Yeah.
Things like mist and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or, like, the giant, like, rampaging cloud backgrounds in Paranorman.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's off topic, but I'm sure we'll talk about that in the future.
Oh,
yeah, we can talk about Laika.
For sure.
Yeah. Oh, we were talking earlier before we were recording that's something about this movie has, because this movie came out in 1999. When I was watching it, I thought it was a lot older. 1997, yes. I thought it was older. Like, there's this shot early on where after Ashitaka kills the boar demon, the way it dissolves and melts, I don't know what you call that effect shot where it kind of fades in from one image to another, but that looked very, very 80s to me. And Carrie, you were saying that there's a reason for that.
Yes, there is a reason why this movie looks kind of older style. It is because this is the very last movie that Ghibli did, which was completely hand-inked. So every single one of these cells in the animation was colored by hand, which was a practice that was pretty much extinct in the 90s. Like, everyone was going to the CAP system that Disney started, or something similar to that, where this movie was hand-inked. So it's something that Disney hadn't done since 1989, and so it looks very classic, where once Miyazaki moved on to, like, Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle, he moved to digital ink and paint. So this was kind of the last of his, quote, old movies. And it had touches of CGI in the new stuff, but it was still grounded in his classic aesthetic.
Yeah, none of the CGI in this movie is distracting by any means. Like,
No.
that's kind of why I was confused about whether the tentacle effects were CGI or hand-drawn, because I thought, is this movie from the 80s? Because that's what it feels like.
It's just a lot of 3D rendering.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, the limited 3D effect shots, he did a couple of point of view angles from the point of Ashitaka and Yakul running across the mountainside that were CGI. And that's just because there's kind of almost no way to do that convincingly in 2D. Like, I think the only person that ever tried it was Richard Williams, and
That's a whole other league.
Yeah, he really made it work.
We're going to talk about him in a future episode, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like, that was what was going to make The Thief and the Cobbler such a big thing, is that he was doing these moving shots all in ink and paint. And
that's why it took so long.
There's a reason why that movie was in production for 40 years and went into development hell, because it was so hard to do. Where, Miyazaki, he had to just use the CGI for the point of view shots. But again, it's just so impossibly hard to do that without computers. And then again, like, some of the background scenes where pretty much all the foreground scenes with the tentacles look hand-drawn. Like, a lot of the writhing and the mass was done just traditional ink and paint. But in the background, when the tentacles are dissolving, you can see a little bit of CGI. But it's just a touch.
Yeah, I don't think in 1997 you could have pulled off really close-up shots of that and have it look as good as it does. So, yeah, I agree. A lot of the background shots would have been where you'd see that.
And you really can't really... As the movie is going, you don't really notice the difference.
Yeah, for sure. Like, the only reason I even questioned it is because I thought this movie was older than it is.
Yeah, I see in the notes that you were talking about how this movie is similar to Nausicaa, where that was another movie that had very similar themes. Like, I was thinking comparing the effect shots with Nausicaa, where... Like, in Princess Mononoke, you can get all these writhing characters, and you can get the becoming a demon thing, where, in Nausicaa, it's much simpler. It's like the insect's eyes turn red, and it has to use more simple... It uses the similar theme of, like, becoming a demon, or in the case of that movie, blinded by rage. But, it had to use a more simple cue. Like, this takes a lot of the ideas of Nausicaa and just takes them further. Like, it takes them to a level of artistry and motion and dynamics that Nausicaa wasn't able to.
Definitely.
I will say that I feel like Nausicaa is a bit more of an emotionally interesting character than Ashitaka, but, like, Ashitaka is still a pretty good lead. Yeah,
especially for a character who's so neutral, it would be easy for him to be just boring, but he's not.
Yeah. It's not really his story, he's more like the Ishmael kind of narrator.
Yeah.
narrative point of view.
You could definitely look at Nausicaa and say that she's, like, too perfect. I mean, I don't care if she's one of my favorite characters because I look up to her. She's, like, my superhero. But, yeah, Ashitaka, he's a little bit less of, like, a pure character. Like, Nausicaa is just, like, almost pure good. Like, she's peaceful. She calms people where, you know, like, I don't know what it is about Ashitaka, but he's just kind of more...
Kind of neutral sometimes, but then if you really, like, upset him, he can be all like, what's wrong with you?
Well, if you upset him, his arm starts writhing and it gets really weird really fast.
Yeah. Like, I think the curse really reflects his rage and how he wants to kill Eboshi when she makes so light about trying to kill the forest spirit, but then, like, he's able to pull it back and, like, be like, no.
Does that right arm of yours wish to kill me, Ashitaka?
If I could remove the curse on me, I'd let it rip you to pieces.
So good. Yep. Miyazaki makes the coolest female characters, like
he does.
Eboshi and San and Moro. Like, if you think about it, Ashitaka is kind of the most... And Toki. Ashitaka is kind of one of the more boring characters in the movie without actually being boring.
Yeah.
No.
But just because everyone around him is so cool.
Yeah, that's why I call him, like, the Ishmael or Nick Carraway of the story.
Yeah.
It is interesting. This... Up until The Wind Rises was the only... Okay, I guess Porco Rosso counts, but was like Miyazaki almost never has male protagonists.
Yeah.
Like, almost always his main characters are young, strong women. Like, I mean, Nausicaa and Castle in the Sky, both, and can just
Kiki.
go down the list. Kiki, yes.
And Kiki, yes.
And
Can I just be Kiki? That's a meme. Anyway.
Okay. And here I thought you were imitating the Phil Hartman cat.
No.
Everybody needs a Phil Hartman cat. Isn't that right,
Everyone.
Gigi?
Phil Hartman played a pretty good cat. Like, he had the voice for it. Which is good. Because I've been watching a lot of Simpsons lately, and, like, his normal, like, Troy McClure voice, not a cat voice, his Gigi voice, flawless.
Yeah.
It's just got that whininess to it that's just a kitty voice.
Yeah, it could be like a meow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But enough about Phil Hartman.
Yeah. in any case, yeah. Like, Ashitaka is one of the few male protagonists that Miyazaki did. So I think the only other two were Porco Rosso and
what's his face from The New Wind Rises?
Jiro, is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lupin the Third, though, but that wasn't his original
Well, that wasn't
story.
technically.
Yeah, that was just based on a pre-existing franchise.
Yeah.
And what's his face from Castle in the Sky? He was sort of the.
I guess Castle in the Sky was like it was like dual protagonists.
Yeah. Deuteragonist, I think they call it.
Two of them. It was two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shita and Pazu.
Yeah, Pazu. That's his name. Pazu. They're cute. Anyway.
So I want to talk a little bit about this movie. It's definitely influenced a lot of other media.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are those little spirit guy called? Spirit
Kodama.
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 They are totally the I put Kokiri in the notes. That's not what they are.
Koroks.
The Koroks in the Zelda games, especially in Breath of the Wild. They kind of make a little clicking sound like that.
Clicky click.
They are absolutely
Yeah.
that. And in their little forest realm in Breath of the Wild too. It looks like something out of a Miyazaki movie.
It does. A lot of that game really looks like Miyazaki could have drawn it.
For sure.
Yeah, like, there was a scene that you showed with, like, they actually did a fight with one of the Guardians as if Link was Ashitaka.
They framed it sort of like in the reveal trailer, like that scene in the beginning where Ashitaka is on Yakul and they're riding against the beast. Like, the reveal trailer for Breath of the Wild has, like, almost an exact shot-for-shot remake of that.
That's true. And Jason, you were saying there's a part of it that reminded you of something in Dark Souls.
Well, like, some of the environments really remind me of some of the, locales in Dark Souls. But I was thinking when I was watching Nausicaa, especially, that there's, like, a bit where she and the Shia LaBeouf character are, like, in the undergrowth of some really dead, like, ashy trees, and it reminded me of this place from Dark Souls. Like, it's not that important, but, like, there's a lot of influence.
And one of my favorite games of all time, Okami, definitely lifted a lot from this movie.
Okami.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to say something as specific as the White Wolf was definitely inspired by this. I'm not sure. But in the game, you play as Amaterasu, as a white wolf. And when you run around, if you pick up any kind of speed, plants start sprouting on your trail. And the spirit of the forest in this movie, everywhere he steps, plants grow. And it just reminded me of that.
Huh, I didn't know the Great Spirit made the flowers grow.
You think? Anyway. And Shadow of the Colossus especially has a
absolutely. There's
vibe that
early on in the movie, especially, there's just I just got major Shadow of the Colossus feelings from this movie.
Yeah, like Miyazaki in Japan, a lot of people call him the Walt Disney of Japan, but I don't even know if that's necessarily accurate. He kind of hates that title.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
His influence in Japan is astronomical, to the point that every other Ghibli movie that comes out that's not directed by Miyazaki gets 1/10 the box office gross.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is kind of unfair, but
I know it's unfair. I really like Hiromasa Yonebayashi, but
yeah, the majority of other directors who have done Ghibli films have done really good films.
Yeah,
even his son, who had a rocky start, he kind of made up for it with Up on Poppy Hill.
It was his son. Was it his son who did Tales of Earthsea?
Yes.
Which is a movie I definitely watched, but I could not tell you one thing about it, except that
I could tell you a few things about it.
The dragon on the cover is in the movie.
I really like the feel of that movie, but there are a lot of things wrong with it.
I literally don't remember a single thing about it.
Well, I like Timothy Dalton.
There was actually a big falling out between Miyazaki and his son because of that movie, where, what I was talking about with Miyazaki and how he observes and is good at recreating the natural world, he felt like his son wasn't quite there. He felt like...
Yeah.
And, that's kind of the thing that's missing from Earthsea, is it doesn't quite have the same sense of character and the same sense of really being grounded in a reality that you can touch and feel.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot more like a traditional, sort of dark fantasy movie, which isn't bad, but for Ghibli, it's not as great as it could have been.
Yeah. I have to take you guys' word on it, because I really don't remember.
Well, I remember Timothy Dalton and Willem Dafoe.
I don't. Not to dunk on the movie, I'm sorry, but yeah.
No, it's
I just remember there's a dragon on the cover, and so I was really excited that there was gonna be a dragon, and then the dragon came up at the end and didn't do anything.
Also, spoilers for Earthsea.
It's on the cover.
It is.
Anyway,
but yeah, also even just not in Japan, a lot of American animators are huge Ghibli fans.
For sure.
Specifically John Lasseter, who is one of the founders of Pixar and was the chief creative officer at Disney until just recently. And on the American DVD releases of the Studio Ghibli movies, a lot of times John Lasseter is right there in the front going you are in for a treat. It
was actually kind of annoying at times. Let me watch the movie, John.
But yeah, a lot of times, Pixar would if they were looking for inspiration for a scene, according to John Lasseter, they would actually sometimes just sit down and watch a Miyazaki movie to see how does he handle this, and, it was a big inspiration. So, Miyazaki casts a very long shadow on American animation, too.
Totally.
And if they're looking for a cute cameo to put in Toy Story 3, they pick Totoro.
Indeed.
Yes!
Yes, Japan's Mickey.
Totoro.
The more Totoros in the world, the better, in my opinion.
Yes.
I want a Totoro plush so bad. There's one at Hot Topic. It's $40.
I want a huge Totoro, bed.
A big pillow, yeah.
A big pillow, yeah.
Yeah, they do have Totoro beds.
Yeah.
Totoro.
I've heard it said the reason a lot of cartoons on TV right now are a lot better than they were the past decade or two is because cartoons these days aren't being made by the generation that grew up on anime, so our generation.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you can really see it.
Anime has always taken its subject matter very seriously, where in America we kind of have this issue with the animation age ghetto, where pretty much through the entire 70s and 80s, animation was only used as a vessel to sell toys. There's a reason why they call it the dark age of animation, is because we had lost the theatrical animated shorts like the Looney Tunes and the Mickey Mouse shorts that made
because
animation
Jabberjaw
so
was
big.
canceled after only one season. Bring back Jabberjaw. No.
Where, yeah, like, in anime, they were constantly making, like, they also had the kids' cartoons going on with, like, Speed Racer, but,
Yeah.
They also had this market of OVAs where they would take some of the subject matter and release it specifically for a more adult audience, and it actually found a niche. So, they had always been making these like grittier, darker, more adult stories. And so in 1995, when Neon Genesis Evangelion premiered and just blew the door wide open on what was possible in an animated show, like, all of a sudden, all these amazingly complex shows like Revolutionary Girl Utena and Wolf's Rain and all these other shows started being made and, came into America. And, in Japan, it's still very much that you can make these very serious adult animated projects, and they are amazing.
For
And
sure.
so,
one thing that really irks me about Western animation is, like, you think adult animation coming out of America, it's always comedies.
Yeah.
And that's kind of...
Family Guy.
becoming... Family Guy. That's becoming less true, kind of, with, like, I'm thinking of BoJack Horseman right now, where it is kind of more dramatic, but it is primarily still a comedy.
Yeah.
But I would like to see just, more genres just in animation in the West.
Yeah, totally.
For sure, because again, animation is such a limitless thing, like...
Absolutely. I always say, I wish the Harry Potter movies had been animated.
Well, we could talk about that, because there was talks about that for a time.
We will talk
Not a
about it
series, but
someday.
like a movie. But that's another story.
Mm-hmm.
I still maintain that there needs to be an Animorphs animated series, like, done seriously.
That would be cool.
Yeah, because that's another kids, like, quote, kids franchise that has very serious elements to it, where, it's about war and the complexities thereof and trauma and stuff. And they did a live action series, and it wasn't the same. It didn't immerse you in the world, but whatever.
It was 90s.
Yeah.
That's all,
that's all I have to say. It was 90s. The era of Goosebumps and...
Hey, don't be trashing my decade, man.
It's my decade too, you baby. Shall we talk about the ending then? Wrap it up.
Yes.
We're coming
yes,
up on...
let us talk about the ending.
I love the ending. It's one of my favorite endings to any movie.
So yeah, I have another quote to start us in to talk about the ending. Like, I just compiled a bunch of Miyazaki quotes because the guy is just great at coming up with these things that summarize things. But here's what he said. Quote, "There cannot be a happy ending to the fight between the raging gods and humans. However, even in the middle of hatred and killings, there are things worth living for. A wonderful meeting or a beautiful thing can exist. We depict hatred, but it's to depict that there are more important things. We depict a cause, to depict the joy of liberation. What we should depict is how the boy understands the girl and the process in which the girl opens her heart to him. At the end, she will say, 'I love you, Ashitaka, but I can't forgive the humans for what they've done.' And smiling, the boy should say, 'That's fine. Live with me.'" Unquote.
Yeah, and like, after the utter chaos of, the killing of the forest god and, like, everything seems like it's gonna die, the huge Nightwalker is spreading its ooze around, and Ashitaka and San are holding up the head like, "Take it, go in peace." And then finally, it falls down on Irontown and, like, explodes almost, and then, like, you get a good 10 seconds of silence, and then the beautiful score from Joe how do you pronounce his last name?
Joe Hisaishi.
Hisaishi. Yeah, that is one of his best scores.
Holy crap, the score of this movie is unbelievable.
Yeah. Especially the last track. It's just so peaceful, kind of like a little sad, but also hopeful.
Yeah, Ashitaka and San.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little piano piece.
I'm going to be the little pessimist and say I find the movie wraps up a little too nicely, but I think that's just a cynic in me saying... They kind of do a little thing where they go to, like, Lady of Boshi and see what she's up to, and then they go to what's his name, Jigo, and see what he's up to.
Yeah.
And
I will say that Jigo kind of gets off scot-free for what he did.
exactly. I think that's what bugged me about it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that
Yeah.
you've said it, I think that's kind of what got to me.
Because Jigo has sort of been like the mastermind behind all this. He really only wants Eboshi's, like, you know, hunting skills to get the head to give to the Emperor and get some money. And then at the very end, he's like, well, all right, can't win against fools.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah.
Eboshi does grow and change for sure, though. Like,
Yeah.
And it is still pretty ambiguous at the end. Like, what's going to happen next? We don't know.
Yeah, she only says she wants to rebuild and kind of do better than before, so she's probably open to change after getting her arm bitten off, but...
Yeah, fair.
And after, like, you know, seeing what the god has done after it died.
yeah, and see, that's the thing, is that, you know, things are not the same after the ending. Like, the forest is destroyed, and even if the trees regrow, it won't be, quote, his forest anymore. And
No.
Yeah.
Irontown is destroyed, and it's like, this conflict, I will say... The climax of this movie, in my opinion, has one of the biggest
Curse word.
moments. Sorry, swear. In the
Carry over
entire,
that
the way that it's set up, the forest spirit and the power of everything, and this beautiful, gorgeous place. When everything goes wrong and the forest spirit is killed, and this black ooze starts coming out, and the soundtrack goes into this like horrific 80s like operatic kind of death soundtrack, it is like, oh my god, this is bad.
It goes bad, and it goes bad fast. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So yeah, like, you know, the movie definitely makes you feel like there is no way that somebody could go through this and not be changed, where because of what they've done, this entire world has gone into chaos and is now going to be destroyed because they've turned the forest spirit into a demon monster.
Yeah.
And like now talking about it, I can see now, like, to have that really peaceful quiet at the end, it's earned for sure.
It is really earned.
Yeah, I do feel like it's valid to say that it wraps up nicely, or too neatly.
Yeah.
Probably.
See, I feel like this movie ended more ambiguous than Nausicaa,
Yeah,
should I do
yeah.
spoiler talk for Nausicaa too?
Yeah, like, if you haven't seen Nausicaa, go away. Alright, go.
Okay, Nausicaa ends on a Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, basically.
Where, you know, like, one person sacrificing herself, all of a sudden, all of the rampaging bugs stop, and the world is healed, and, you know, like, the Blue Road person has come and is going to guide us to the land of peace, and happy ending, everything's done, even after all the things that people have killed, you know, it's like, that wraps up too neatly.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, this one, definitely a bit more ambiguous, but still, it is kind of... You know, it's kind of hard to say that it's a happy ending.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think both sides recognize that there has to be a lot of growth, and the people of Irontown realize that, we gotta rebuild, but we have to, like, do things better than we did before. And San is even like, I can't forgive the humans for what they did. I just can't. So things have changed, but, like,
Not
there's
for
still
Jigo.
a lot of a rift. Not for Jigo. Jigo gets off and away.
Yeah, and that's one of the motifs that Miyazaki has a lot, is he very highly holds in regard the natural world, but he also acknowledges that, like, you can't stop progress. So, you know, like, what he wants, kind of, is for there to be a balance, where we move forward, but we respect the natural world and the beautiful things in the world.
Find the compromise.
Yeah, the compromise, for sure.
Yeah, and I will say this ending is a lot more subtle than Isao Takahata's ending to his other environmental thing that did very much the same thing,
Yeah,
Pompoko. Where they literally turn to the camera and it's like, what have we learned today about preserving the forest?
Now, children, come together. Now,
Anyway.
we Tanuki can shapeshift, but what about the other animals who can't? Food for thought. Party.
Goodness.
This has been your Environmentalism 101 course. Anyway.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we would like to say before we wrap it up?
I think we've talked quite a bit. We've gone almost an hour now, but this is a long movie. It is
the I think longest traditionally animated movie.
Yeah, it's over 2 hours long, and I guess we can wrap it up with, do we recommend it? And I think it's pretty clear that all three of us do.
Yes.
Heck yes.
I
This movie
recommend
is
the
great.
crap out of it.
Fantastic movie.
One of the best.
Not for the kiddies though. It's
Maybe
definitely
not.
Depends on the kid.
I
but-
was 10 when I watched it, and
Yeah.
Michelle was 8. My sister Michelle was 8 when she watched it. So
Yeah, not for little sensitive kids. It's not that it's
Probably
like
not.
it's not that it's loud and violent. It's actually the fact that it's pretty quiet and contemplative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It depends on how much your kids can watch. Like, if they're the kind of kids you sit them down and they'll watch anything, they could probably watch it and be like, oh, this is cool. But if they get restless and want to do other things, then it's not for them.
Yeah, I feel like you will get a lot more out of this movie the older you are, but it is definitely watchable by those who are like in later childhood and able to grasp at least a rudimentary amount of complexity.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine any, adult who gives this movie a chance wouldn't, love it on some level, honestly. That's a pretty broad statement, but...
Yeah, well, there are some critics who's like, whatever, that obscure frickin' Chinese thing that no one frickin' watched. Oscars.
Oh, that's the whole thing.
We'll get into the Oscars
We'll get
later.
to you, Oscar committee.
Your time
yes.
will come.
Oh, yes.
I
know,
will
this
yell
is not
at you.
Chinese,
I will
it's
scream.
Ch-
I will scream at you in a passion that is equal to the English dub Ashitaka. Because that guy screams a lot in the English dub, I have to say.
Yeah.
Like, watching the Japanese original, like, Ashitaka is way quieter.
Yeah, that is
like,
kind of a
calm
thing.
down, Dr. Manhattan.
That is kind of a thing, is in Japanese media in general, the emotions are a little bit quieter and more subtle, and, in America, we like
Scream.
more exaggerated things.
For a spirit! Yeah.
Okay, yes.
All right, so I think that's enough from us for this one. So I guess we'll sign off now.
Yes.
Thank you to Mitch McGraw for our theme song. You can find him at Mitch D. McGraw, all
Yes,
one word,
thank you,
on
Mitch.
Twitter. Or Mitch D. McGraw on Twitter, I should say. Get that middle initial. My name is Becca McGraw. I'm a digital artist, and you can find my work at rebexorcist.com.
I am Jason Knott. I am a amateur critic. You can find my reviews on animated films, live action films, some TV series and games and whatnot at Whatever Reviews on Blogspot.
And my name is Carrie Dreblow, and I am YouTube's animation critic. I talk about anime, and eventually we'll talk about Disney, but we'll get to that in the future. You can find me on YouTube at Animation Critic, all one word.
Also, actually, I want to change that. You can find me on Whatever Reviews on Blogger.com. There, I mixed it up.
Okay.
All right, just edit that in. All right, and that's gonna do it for this episode of Animation Destination.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
listening.
for
very much
joining
for
us.
watching.
Yay.
And yeah, watch this movie. It's great. It's my favorite for a reason.
And we still need a sign off.
That was our sign off. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Play me out, Mitch.
Oh God,
Okay,
we're floundering. We're dying. We're drowning. Abort.
It's okay. Like, this is why we have editing software.
Yes,
like,
it's all right.
there is zero pressure. We can take out anything that does not need to make it into the final cut.
Exactly. Okay.
Like anything disparaging towards others, like. Am I right?
Jason.
Oh my god.
Carrie, keep that in. Put it right at the end after the credits.
Please don't.
Oh my god. It's on file. We have a racist co-cast member, everyone.
Oh
Shut.
no. Oh no.
I'll never tell.